Hey everybody, it's Jim. I am back with a new video. I'm going to try a little bit of an experiment on this one. I have been interested in watching a lot of YouTube videos about people who are reacting to videos without showing the video, without having the audio on. And I thought it would be really interesting to go through an episode of Star Trek and try to relate all the things that are happening in the episode into the game mechanics. One of the things I see often as the project manager for the game on social media is new gamers or interested gamers or curious gamers who think about getting into Star Trek Adventures and say, well, can I do this scene or this event from this episode in the game? Like if there's a space battle or there's some sort of scientific or technical problem, can I replicate that event in the game? And Nathan Dowdell, the system designer for Star Trek Adventures and for the 2D20 system produced by Modiphius Entertainment, has written a couple of blog posts taking specific scenes from different episodes and translating them into mechanics. You can find those on the Modiphius blog. If you go to the Modiphius website, modiphius.net, and search for the Star Trek Adventures blogs, you'll see those handful of blogs. But I thought, as far as I can tell, no one else on YouTube is going through an entire episode, partly because it's a lot. It's a lot of effort, right? But I thought I'd grab an episode and try it out, see how it works. I'm going to try to honor the copyright and not show the screen or have the audio, audible on screen. So I've got my phone set up here so I can watch the show, and I'm not even going to get into the details about what I had to do to try to make it work so I could watch the phone and also have the screen. So anyway, it's just the wonders of the setup for a channel like this. I have a Scrivener window open, so I'm going to jot down some notes for you guys to follow along. And then, of course, I'll just jump into it here. So this is going to be the Strange New Worlds Season 2 episode, Ad Astra per Aspera. If those of you who've been following me, I just recently had a conversation with Jenny over at Crusher Convo. We had a podcast last week. Today is November 17th, so we did a video podcast with her early November 2025. So if you want to go check that out first, again, Crusher Convo, find her everywhere podcasts can be found. And we had a great conversation about Ad Astra per Aspera. And since it's on my mind, I thought this would be a good first episode to try doing this thing. Now, I've done a couple of other episodes about taking specific Star Trek episodes and pulling out the gameable bits from screen to table. And this one is going to be a full episode. I'll stick through the whole thing. Hopefully, you stick with me too. And I'm going to just try to go through this episode and see what happens in the episode and how, as a game master, I might translate that into Star Trek Adventures mechanics, specifically Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition, although to be honest with you, 2nd Edition and 1st Edition are not all that different. So a lot of the concepts I'll be talking about in terms of 2nd Edition should translate very easily over to 1st Edition. Anyway, so without more ado, let's see, where is my mute button? I don't know if I have a mute button. All right, we'll have to make this work. Maybe I'll just mute my phone, and then because I have the subtitles on. So again, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra per Aspera. Let's go. And I've already skipped through the preview and the promo, so I'm getting right into it right now. This is the little flashback of Una's family checking her out after she's wounded. She has a damaged leg, and I guess spoiler warning. There'll be lots of spoiler warnings because I've already watched this episode multiple times. Una, of course, is an Illyrian. Illyrians at the time were trying to keep themselves and their abilities hidden because they were augments. And so her leg is glowing because she's healing herself. There's no particular task here. This is a flashback backstory. There's nothing here to really focus on. And now we come to the present time with Una in prison, talking to her JAG, Judge Advocate General Advisor, no doubt, and also Captain Battelle, who's going to be trying her for her time. They're offering her a deal. This is all pure role play. There's nothing here that would be mechanically oriented, but it's a wonderful Wonderful scene, really. This is setting the stakes, right? This is the inciting incident, inciting situation. Here's what's going on. This is focused on Una's character. So whoever the player is of Una, we can say it's Rebecca, right? Just use the actors' names as the player and their character. So Una's got an argument here. Okay, why are you advocating for me when she's your boss? This is kind of lame. Not the best idea here. Yeah, Battelle not looking real happy about the situation. And then we cut to Pike. We cut scene. Captain Pike is on a planet looking to get some help for Una, yes? And this scene, I would play this out as a scene, certainly. And I would, given the fact that this planet has been the Illyrians modified themselves to live on this planet, and this planet is hostile to humans. So as a human, you would need to wear a breathing mask, breathing apparatus to survive. But even with the breathing apparatus, it's not conducive to your long-term health. I would call this a new scene, right, in the episode. And Pike is the only character in the scene. There aren't even opportunities in this scene for supporting characters. So hopefully the rest of the group is hanging around the table, virtual or in person, whatever. And hopefully they're having a good time watching Pike go through the motions here. And I would certainly set this up as some scene traits, giving hostile environment, toxic air, whatever the equivalent is. Pike obviously has equipment trait of a breathing mask, although it's not super effective. And I might even consider looking at the hostile environment options. There's some mechanics in there about if your character is suffering environmental effects or hostile environment, there could be a stress impact every round, every couple of rounds, every minute or something. You can play with that. I believe it's in the core book. If not the core book, I think it's in the game toolkit. I don't have it in front of me, and I don't want to spend the time flipping pages. So let me hit continue. So Pike is outside. He's staggering into the building, and he's going to be waiting for the receptionist to let him go see the lawyer. And she's trying to give him the polite brush off, and he's like, "Nope, I'm just going to sit here and wait." But as he's sitting there and waiting, that environmental effect is still impacting him. His oxygen is running out, and he's rapidly going to have a really bad day here. So if you really wanted to get into the gaming of it a little bit, you could have Pike and the receptionist having an opposed task. Maybe he's trying to convince her, but I don't think that's really necessary. I think just through the role playing here, it's enough to see that he's just going to sit it out. And if he runs out of stress before before he's let in, then so be it. He'll I guess presumably pass out. But she his mask goes to critical. She runs to go get the help. Excuse me, my cat's in the way. All right. Anyway, so then she's let in. The lawyer turns on the air and lets him in. And then Pike and her are going to have a conversation about Una, basically, and is this lawyer willing to take on her case? And I would set this up, I think, as a social conflict. Certainly, it's Pike trying to convince the lawyer to take the case, and there's a lot of back and forth here. So I think I would certainly, if my players were really interested in the mechanics and rolling dice, I would certainly set this up as a social challenge, and have some stakes in there, and have some opposed roles going back and forth. This could maybe be enough of a scene just to do just straight role playing, but I think I would want a group and a player at a really mature level of like time in game. Like, this wouldn't be a first season episode. This would clearly be a later season episode once the characters are really comfortable with each other, and the players are comfortable with their characters. So Pike's talking about old fears can be hard to let go of. Talking about the Illyrians, realizing that they were wrong. So there's some elements here that could impact the social conflict, and see if we can play it through. You could maybe do this as extended task. Although I think the social conflict rules certainly is what this kind of thing is intended for. Pike came in wanting something and is trying to convince her to do it. So she's done her research. He's done his research. And of course, she has her own agenda, right? Like she's Illyrian, and she knows that the Illyrians have been given a very bad hand by the Federation over the decades, and maybe this is an opportunity for her to right some of those wrongs. And yeah, Pike even calls it out and says, "Hey, you know, you've got a bunch of cases that are outstanding. Maybe taking this case on might help some of those other cases, and might get you back on the map, so to speak." And I love that line at the end here where he says, "You know, you still haven't said no yet." So the implication there is that you know, maybe he won that social challenge because, you know, she does accept the case, and you know, trying to convince you, trying to save a friend. Yep, yep. He mentions her life's work, right? So maybe this is her life's work. This is an opportunity. Gives her the case file. She compliments him. Yeah, and you still haven't said no. What a great line. All right, and then we cut back to Una. So this is a new scene. Una is sitting in her cell, you know, hanging out, and Nira. So clearly she's accepted the case. She comes to wherever Una is. I guess it's on the starbase or on Earth. Maybe I don't know that it's quite clear where they're hanging, but that's all right. It doesn't really matter, I guess. And of course, you know, Nira's got her own agenda coming in here, and so she's having a conversation with Una. This I have to play this scene through. I don't think there's really any mechanics here. I think it's role playing. It's Una's character and Nira's character. I guess in this case an NPC. Unless you had a really great group and another player was willing to take on the Nira role, and with some coaching from the game master to kind of navigate it. But probably in all my experience, this would be the game master playing Nira and the Una player character having a conversation back and forth. You know, so they're trying to talk about their reasoning. Nira's sounding out Una here, really, to say, like, why do you want to take this case? Why don't you just take the deal and leave? You know, quit. And Una's like, no, I don't want to quit. Starfleet's more important to her than just quitting. There's more here that she wants. So, and Nira even says here, I'm not doing this for you, Una. I'm doing it for me, and for all the Illyrians who haven't been able to get justice. And clearly this scene sets up some subtext too. There's some layers here, right? Yeah, Nira and Una have some history. Then we've got the new scene. We've got Batel and Pike having a conversation. Batel not happy that Una has rejected her deal, and Pike not being particularly sympathetic. Of course, another layer of this conversation complicating matters is the fact that these two have a relationship, right? And this whole situation with Una is kind of driving a little bit of a wedge into that relationship, and that's just the challenges of Starfleet and being given orders, and you have to do things that sometimes aren't so great. So again, this is Captain Batel being played by the Game Master, Pike's player character, or Pike's player playing out his character. Judge Advocate General's looking into it. Not real happy about it. Bad news for Una. Should have taken the deal. Pike's like, well, she's a good officer. All right, so that's not the most cheerful conclusion to that scene. Pike's not real happy. Nobody's happy. Yeah. And then we cut external shot of the bridge. Yep. And we're into the beginning of the conversation here with the Judge Advocate Generals as we play this through. Incidentally, Judge Advocate Generals is a great way to get some role-playing going through your group. We just recently released a free mission brief pack all about the Judge Advocate General. So check that out. It's free to download off the Modifius website or Drive-Thru RPG. So if you're interested in adding some legal shenanigans into your campaigns or adventures, do check out that free mission brief pack. There's 8 adventures in there and a few pages of information about the JAG that you can use in your games. Any era, Starfleet is in every era. 1,000 years worth of Star Trek, and JAG's always been a part of it, one way or another. All right, so that takes. So just having a conversation about what's going to happen. We go to the intro. I'm going to skip the intro. Oops. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to skip the intro. So for those of you following along at home, I have just skipped the introduction. We are now 12:53, 12:55 into it. Oh yeah, let me pause it here for just a second. So yeah, in the bit right before the credit break, they indicated that they were gonna, since she declined the deal, they're gonna up the stakes and make the punishment much more severe. They're gonna give her 20 years in a penal facility, assuming she's found guilty. That seems a bit harsh, but they're gonna come down on her with the full weight of the Federation. So that has increased the stakes. But Una's like, well, I'm going to keep going with it anyway. And Nira's like, well, I'm going to put April on the stand. And Nira's like, no, that's not such a great idea. And Una's like, no, put me on the stand. Let them see what matters. And Nira's not ready to do that. Great line there. Are you being funny? You were never funny. Oh, shout out to the writers and actors and producers of this show. Really, really well done. Really good legal drama. Legal drama is tricky because you've got, it's basically people in a room. It's like 12 angry jurors, 12 angry men. You got to keep it interesting and snappy between the characters. Otherwise, you just got a bunch of people in a room just staring at each other, and it's like, oh my god, so dry. But you can make it really interesting and dynamic, and that's why all these different layers in the characters are really interesting because it keeps them talking. And you can see that Una's got her stakes, and Nira's got her stakes, and the JAG has their stakes, and just everybody's got different things going on. All right, so then we cut scene to Nira talking to La'an. La'an is here to show her into her temporary quarters. I guess they must be on the Enterprise. Okay, so they're presumably on the Enterprise. I guess they're having the hearing on the Enterprise as well. So Nira's asking for a copy of the Code of Justice. La'an's going to hesitate, asking for any help. Now, is this the scene where she talks about her personal log, or is that later? I'll just let it play through here. She can be some assistance. Suggests a case file. Nira's like, well, I am a civil rights lawyer. Oh yeah, oh yeah, you are. Oh yeah, this is the fruit of the poisonous tree. So this is where La'an indicates, I did that personal log a while back, saying how much of a monster I thought Una was, and turns out to be inaccurate. But she was afraid that somebody had gotten hold of her personal logs, and is going to use that as evidence against Una. So the idea being that La'an's scared, or La'an's concerned that she may have accidentally outed Una as an Illyrian. And Nira's thinking about that. And then we cut scene back to Pike, talking with Batel, fraternizing with the enemy, basically. It's interesting to note as this scene plays through here, we're 15, almost 16 minutes in, just for those of you following along. The vast majority of this episode so far has been one character talking to one character, which is not always conducive for a role-playing game, right? Because ideally you have a group of 3 to 7, maybe more players around your table, and you want to have everybody be active and engaged, right? You want more of an ensemble piece more often than not, probably, which is why I was saying that this kind of an episode would probably be better suited for a later, for an episode well into your campaign, or if you've got really awesome patient players who are willing to sit back and just listen. Like some of the main cast don't really have much to do in this episode, and in fact barely even cameo. So this might almost be an episode where if you knew some people were going to be out of town or on vacation or just not available, you might drop this in. But given how significant this episode is to Una and to Pike, and even to La'an, um, like if I were running this as a campaign, I would want everybody there, like all the players there if possible. But I think I would try to come up with a really good B story to amp this up, just to make sure that Pike and Una, and to a lesser extent La'an, have their thing going on. But then there's also something else for the rest of the characters to be significantly involved in. And if the Enterprise is, if the ship is parked at Starbase One, there's an opportunity for an away team to Earth, or maybe they take a shuttle to something. I don't know. There's all kinds of possibilities for the rest of the crew to be doing something proactive here, or something positive, if it's not directly related to to Una's trial. Like here, you can see Spock and Mbenga and Ortegas have a little scene here. Again, this is just role playing and observation. Maybe there's some mechanics here. Maybe Spock is having having a social conflict with the Admiral, and Mbenga has an opportunity to do a observation, some sort of observation check to see if he picks up on the body language, to see what they're saying. That might work. And then Spock comes over and apologizes for the outburst, which is a great little bit. So this is really just a little role playing bit between Ortegas and Mbenga to show off their characters a little bit. Spock comes over and apologizes. So maybe Spock and the Admiral were having a brief conversation, although that conversation didn't really have a huge bearing on the actual episode. So I don't know that I'd put a lot of mechanics into that. But maybe Mbenga having a chance to pick up on what was being said would be good. Then we cut to La'an talking to Uhura about securing those files, and this is a nice character moment. Again, this is probably something I would just do in role playing. I don't know that I would do an opposed task here, especially if Uhura is a player character, right? I think if the conceit is that all the main characters are player characters, then this is two player characters talking to each other. La'an saying, "Look, I want these personal logs released," and Uhura sticking to her guns, saying, "That's not right. And even though you're my superior officer, I can't let you do that." So young Uhura standing up for what's proper and correct, and La'an accepts it and walks away. So this could be a social challenge. This could be La'an coming in trying to push in a bit, and Uhura saying, "Oh no, not going to happen." And that could be a case where maybe Uhura wins that particular social challenge, and La'an walks away. So there could be a mechanical element to that if you wanted to. I guess it depends on how excited your group is to roll dice versus just role play. All right, then we cut to the actual start of the court's in session. Here we go. Got the representatives here, a bunch of admirals. The crew is watching from afar. Yep, everybody's here. Charges are being read. They're going to read the charges. Violating a bunch of Starfleet regulations. So we've seen examples on other Star Trek shows of things happening with one group of people doing stuff, and then another group of the player characters trying to solve the problem so that they can come back to the jury and exonerate or whatever. I think a good example of that would be Sins of the Father from Next Generation. Picard and Worf are on the Klingon homeworld, while some of the other characters are trying to track down the old nursemaid, if I remember right, and then they come back with the information and exonerate Worf. So there's ways to get the other players involved, the player characters involved, beyond just token appearances here. In fact, we'll see that here shortly when Spock, Mbenga, and La'an testify at the trial. But kicking off here, we've got April on the stand as a character witness. And Nira really digs into him, right? She's trying to make a point, and even though the whole, again, spoilers, my apologies, but making the argument that even though her argument was stricken from the record because she got really up in April's business, the point was still made, I think. And I think you also see a sense there that Nira, in attacking Pike, or in attacking April, kind of had her own agenda going through here. So it wasn't just to attempt to exonerate Una, it was also trying to make a point about Starfleet captains often being, flexible in how they interpret the Prime Directive and various and sundry other Federation laws and regulations and directives, etc. Right? It's always case by case basis. You get a few captains who are like, no, it's the rules, and we're not going to stick to the rules. And then you got other captains who are like, Prime Directive, more like Prime Guideline. I think Commodore Nella Zen in the starter set had that as a value. Anyway, so back to this. Again, they're having a conversation. This is all role playing. Again, there's no mechanics here. I think it's just them having a conversation. Maybe once they get into the cross examination of April here, maybe this is a element of again social conflict, where the prosecutor and the defense are trying to make their points. Maybe you can have maybe this could be an extended task, and different things are happening at different stages of the progress track. This could be a challenge, or this could just easily be social conflict. Opposed tasks. Maybe the challenge with this is, and this is where legal scenes like this are tricky to do in a role-playing setting, because presumably the prosecution, in this case Battelle, and the witness, in this case April, are probably both being played by the game master. And I tell you, in my experience, there are few things more dull than a game master talking to themselves in one character voice and then another character voice, and just going back and forth, back and forth. In Measure of a Man, they did a nice job of sidestepping that issue by having Riker be the prosecutor and Picard being the defendant. So that forced, Jonathan, the player of Riker, to have to roleplay against Patrick, playing Picard. And I think, at least from a gaming perspective, that's better, because then you've got player character versus player character, as opposed to, or you have player character talking to player character, as opposed to the game master talking to the game master. And as a game master, I hate talking to myself, right? Like the less I'm talking, the better. I want the players to be engaged in doing this stuff, and I'll feed them information from time to time as a non-player character. But in this particular instance, because this is a courtroom scene, and you've got witnesses and you've got the prosecutor, that are, in this case, probably both game master characters, because the game master can't really, well, they could, but it would be really challenging to be the game master and to give another player enough information and enough prompts to say, hey player, why don't you play April, you're on the stand, I'm going to pressure you as the prosecutor, and then I'm going to pressure you as the defense attorney. That might be asking more of a player than what they'd be interested in bringing to the table, presuming that they already have a main character that they want to play. So if I was going to do this particular episode in an RP setting, I think I would find a way to bump Battelle out of there, even though that risks losing the interaction between Battelle and Pike, and give it another player character. The other option, of course, is, especially season 2 and season 3, maybe Battelle's a player character, right? Maybe that's the Pike character's partner or significant other, or whatever, and they just want to be involved in the game, and because Battelle's kind of a recurring character, right? She's not a main character. She just shows up a lot. So yeah, there's a couple ways to go about this, I guess. But ultimately, as much as possible, I would avoid having a game master talking to the game master and having two NPCs going back and forth, especially for more than a few minutes in a courtroom setting like this. So where are we here? We are 26, almost 27 minutes in. Uh, oh, yeah, April's standing up to kind of defend himself. He's kind of been raked over the coals a little bit here. Been picked at. Nira's been picking at him, and his choices that he's made because she's trying to make a point here. And April comes down and says, "Look, all things being equal, if I had known that Una was an Illyrian, I still would have said, I still would have, I still would have reported her to Starfleet because at the time that was not legal." Bunch of objections. Objections were sustained. April's entire testimony gets stricken from the record, and we're theoretically at ground zero, right? We're back to, or not ground zero. We're back to square one. Um, things not looking great for the home team here, basically. In fact, I think this is where, yeah, they tried to undercut April. Well, that's not looking so good. Pike's like, yeah, I don't know how this is going to help, and he leaves in a huff. Cut scene. April talking to Pike again. One person talking to one person again. So this is another instance of the game master now talking to Pike, which is fine. But because they got friends, they're friends. They have history. I thought this was an interesting little bit here. Pike pours a drink for April, and April's like, "No, I'm not taking your drink." He's kind of pissed off, right? So he just he's like, "Yeah, I wish I had been able to say more, but I'm out of here." So April leaves, and then this nice little bit here. Pike pours the drink into his own glass. He needs a double, I guess. Bad day for Pike. All right, and then we cut scene, and we're back to Una in her little jail cell. Like, what did you just do, Nira? What is going on here? This isn't helping me. It's not helping matters to burn April down. And Nira's like, I'm all in. Are you all in? I'm fighting. And again, this is some back and forth between Una and Nira. I guess the idea being that these two clearly have history, and they're playing with the layers of the onion here, right? They're playing with it's not just about Una, it's not just about Illyrians. There's a lot of backstory and history here that they're picking at. So I think this is a good opportunity for the game master to be digging into Una's character and her backstory and her life path, and pulling out Nira as a significant character and bringing her into the campaign, right? To say, hey, you created this backstory with this character. Here she is defending you, and adding that layer to the story. Yep. So Nira is explaining her reasoning. Una's looking a little, I don't know, this is a good idea. Maybe I should just take the deal. And no, she's in it. Door closes on her. All right, and then we cut scene. Back to the courtroom. Now this is where we've got La'an, Spock, and M'Benga doing their testimony. So this is a good opportunity for the player characters to have something to do that's supportive of another player character, and is a little bit more dynamic from a role playing point of view. You've got several player characters and one game master NPC bouncing questions off of them and giving them a chance to expound. And I think this is a good example of where this episode is better suited for a more mature campaign, where the players know their characters pretty well, and have had enough time to interact with the other player characters that they have some back history. They have some depth here. Now, of course, La'an and Una already have some backstory, so they're pulling on that. M'Benga and Spock are talking more about their experiences with Una in the context of the campaign, right? Like Spock probably started off as an ensign earlier on in the campaign, has had that time to build with her, knows that she likes Gilbert and Sullivan, knows her quality as a leader. Same thing with M'Benga. La'an's got the extra experience of her backstory with Una, and all that comes out. I'm going to pause this here for just a second. This is 31 minutes and 30 seconds in. I'm going to pause it here real quick. I realized I'm sitting here talking at you, and I've got the Scrivener thing open here, and I haven't done anything with it because obviously it's hard for me to talk and type. So let's see, the pike on the planet. That could be environmental effects, scene traits, and hazardous environment rules, and guidance. And then we had the social Pike's social conflict with Nira, convincing her to take the case, right? And then we had back and forth with Nira and Una, conversation. Oh, possible social conflict between Spock and Admiral. I don't remember the Admiral's name. We'll just call him Admiral Jag. Benga. Perception check or other test to pick up the Vulcan's body language and add color to his scene with Ortegas. And then we get into the trial, and that really wasn't a lot of mechanics there, although first part of the trial with April, maybe a social conflict there, maybe just pure RP, and now we're into the PC testimonials. Chance for Spock, Benga, and on to contribute RP. Although, you know, actually, if now that I think about it, you could almost set up this entire court as a big extended task. Although it's not as interesting, because if Nira is a game master, if the game master player or the NPC, if the NPC is conducting the extended task, yeah, it's not quite as exciting as having a player character do it. But I could see where maybe Nira, or the whole case is a very hard extended task, because the defense is trying to convince the prosecution that Una's innocent, and you could play it that way and have Spock and Benga and La'an all contributing traits or something to the extended task, right? So maybe this extended task is like, you know, difficulty 8 or something crazy like that, and each of their testimonies, which are of course very positive, maybe each of those is a trait to help chip away at that incredible difficulty. So that's one way to do it. You know, maybe April was meant to be a positive trait and ended up being a negative trait. Well, actually, no, it ended up being nothing because they struck it from the record, right? So yeah, so if you wanted to add more RP more mechanics to it, you could make this an extended task and have their individual testimonies contribute to the overall effort. There's ways to play with that, certainly, but the other option is just to make this good RP and just make a good role playing and give you know, put Spock on the stand, Spock's player, and say, okay, here's the questions to you, and have him work through it. Do the same thing with Benga's player and La'an's player, and see how it goes. Anyway, so thanks for letting me catch up on that. Let me hit the play button here. Again, we're 31 minutes, 30 seconds in, and we're going to continue with the trial here. So this is, so she's talking to La'an. Not only would you not have joined Starfleet, but, you know, La'an's like, no, I think I'd be dead. So that's pretty important. Yeah, Pike looking impassive. of course, since this is YouTube, if you're seeing these different scenes differently, by all means, drop your comments into the comment section below. Tell me how you would handle it differently, or how would you stage this for your role playing group, or for a role playing group, either in a live setting, face to face around a table, or virtually. Virtually has its advantages because it might be a little easier to slip notes to one player or another. Okay, and we cut, and we're back to Nira and La'an coming in to have a conversation. Yep, gives her the information. I think this is where which one is this? Oh yeah, they're trying to figure out who turned Una in. Yeah, this is where La'an explains that she had made a personal log, and was afraid that the personal log got into the prosecution's hands. And I think this is where Nira explains that even if she had recorded a personal log, it would be months before somebody could subpoena it and use it. So there's just, based on the timing, there was no way that the timing could have happened in such a fashion. Oh, yeah, talking about La'an's past as a relative of Khan. And I guess that's a great question that I don't know that they've adequately addressed yet, or maybe they've hinted at it. But is La'an an augment? Right? Does she have the augment? Is she a half human, half augment, or is she entirely a human augment? Like, does she have that augment DNA in her? I think Una in one episode hinted that La'an has a really strong punch. So I wonder if we'll see that come out later in a later episode. Of course, we've only got a season and a half left, but I wonder if they'll confirm or deny that La'an is in fact an augment or not. Not that it's particularly germane to this episode, but just character curiosity. Yeah, Nira is saying it takes 6 months at a minimum for a request for a personal log to come in. So no worries, you didn't turn her in. Of course, that raises the question: if you didn't turn her in, then who did? And I suspect at this point, Nira probably has an idea of what happened. La'an doesn't, though. I don't think, because I think La'an's surprised in the climax. So either La'an really doesn't know, or maybe she's just not willing to air her suspicions out loud. She's a smart woman. I'm sure she probably has a suspicion that Una may have turned herself in, but maybe it hasn't worked through why Una would do that. It feels like I got hit by nice little scene. All right, then we cut back to Spock chatting. Oh, they're calling into the witness. Is this where Nira puts Una on the stand? Yeah, yeah. So this is Nira's big plan coming into play here. She's going to put Una on the stand and give her every opportunity to defend herself. I would say, again, spoilers. Nira knows her end game, right? She knows where she's going. She knows what statute she's going to call out in the ending of the episode here, probably. Maybe? Probably. And I think she's going to drive this questioning at Una to see if she can make it all come together. And through the magic of television and script writing, it works. But getting ahead of ourselves here. And we are, just for the following along, 37 minutes in here. So we're getting close to the finale here, but we gotta play through it here. So for mechanic wise, though, what is this? This is the defense talking to their witness. So this is all pure RP here. I would think. I think this is the game master, non-player character in the form of Nira, talking to Una, giving that giving that player an opportunity to really show some depth to her character. It's like these things that are happening. Why was this important to you? Tell us about your backstory. Tell us about you breaking your leg in on Illyria when you were a kid. And this is a chance for the Una player to either dig deep into their backstory and reveal that backstory to the other players around the table who are, hopefully sitting and enjoying this, or maybe just making it up on the spot. Certainly, sometimes the best stuff happens in the moment, and you just get into it and you get creative. But this could be a matter of the Una player probably having this nice little backstory about her life as an Illyrian child, breaking her leg, having the whole challenging part of her environment. What was life like for your family? What was life like as an Illyrian on the planet when you were separated? You left friends behind. You left family behind. That must have been hard. And what's really great about this scene is the subtext between Nira and Una, right? So not only are they, is Una explaining herself, but in a way she's also apologizing to Nira, and Nira picks up on that, and it's like, oh, okay, things really sucked for a lot of us, and you didn't do what you did on purpose. It was circumstances, right? And so there's some healing in this scene, which is really, really fascinating, and just shows some really great depth to the characters and to the writing. Now that kind of writing you don't get from in a role playing game scenario, because you got players and the game master creating stuff on the fly, right? But certainly I've had my share of Star Trek RPG experiences over the decades, getting deep into the characters like this, and just like having really good, intense role play between player and player or player and game master, where this kind of deep stuff really comes out, either because the players prepared their backstory, or because it's just coming up in the moment and it all fits and it just makes sense. And the game master NPC in the form of Nira is pulling all this out. We were persecuted. Circumstances happened, and that's her part of her way of extending a hand or an apology to Nira, saying, look, didn't do it on purpose. While this is playing through, like if you've had some great role playing experiences similar to this, either in Star Trek or some other role playing game, I'd love to hear about them. All of my best role playing, character interactions back and forth have always ended up in a Star Trek role playing game with Star Trek Adventures or another system over the years. I've had good role playing experiences in other systems, like Pendragon especially. But I'd love to hear about more. Like if you've had some great RP experiences, let's share them. Drop them in the comments, and I'd love to hear them, because I know there's a lot of great RPGs out there, and this level of intense character stuff I just haven't seen or haven't experienced it in other RPGs other than Star Trek. And for a while I thought maybe Star Trek was kind of unique, but I know I've had some great experiences with Pendragon, and I've had some good experiences with the old TSR Marvel superheroes, where we kind of let the mechanics move to the side and just focus on the role playing. So Nira says thank you, but then Una continues on, adds more explanation, which is interesting, right? Because certain types of trials, as a witness, sometimes you're coached to answer the question and then shut up. Don't say anything. So just answer the question in front of you. Don't add anything that the prosecution can maybe grab onto, right? So Una offering herself up here, very clearly very earnest and forthright, and wanting to explain herself and explain her choices and why things matter. Oh, and then Nira puts her to it. How did Starfleet find out that you were Illyrian? Like, put put you right on the spot. Okay, what happened? How did they find out? Who told? Who either A, who ratted you out, or B, what happened, right? What happened? What caused this to happen? And big character moment. Una reveals, I turned myself in. Everybody's shocked. It's like, why would you do that? And this is a great opportunity for Una's player to really bring out what is important to Una. In fact, if this is an extended task, either on Una's part or Nira's part, this is probably where she's pulling on one of her values, spending that determination, right? Starfleet to the core. This is why Starfleet matters so much to me. That I'm willing to turn myself in and end my career because this is important. This is that important, right? So in fact, maybe that's how to. I'll keep it running, but maybe that's how to frame this. Maybe this is an extended task, and Una is the one kind of running the extended task, but the testimony from her player character friends are traits that help. The testimony from April has an impact, and then her defense attorney maybe doing assists or doing something mechanically that can support that. But maybe that's one way to frame it, is that Una is doing the extended task, knowing that her testimony would be the big kicker coming through that, probably the first breakthrough point, and her pulling on that determination and pulling on her value and saying, I turned myself in, and here's why I turned myself in, because it's so important to me. Yeah, you turned yourself in because you believe in Starfleet. Yep. Ad Astra per Aspera. There's the title. Roll credits. anytime the characters say the title of the episode. Yep. Cut, snap, roll credits. You're done. You see that often in other shows. Yep. Admiral Jag is going to get into it now. He's like, yeah, sit down, Battelle. I'm going to take it over on this one. Yeah, emotions are irrelevant. Oh, you jerk. Had to have a bad moral somewhere, right? Because of course you can't let Battelle look like the bad guy, right? Because you need Battelle to continue on the romantic connection with Pike and keep her around for season 3, where you're going to turn her into a god. I digress. Spoilers for season 3 for those of you who haven't watched yet. Sorry. But having Admiral Jag there means that you had somebody else you can kind of like be angry at when he starts spouting these lines. Oh, and this is where he pulls the conspiracy thread and implicates Pike as well. So it's like this is bigger than Una. We're gonna make this. This isn't about Una anymore. It's about Pike. So like he's going off the rails a little bit, but I guess in his brain it makes logical sense. Oh, Vulcans. Vulcans are flexible with their logic, like Klingons are flexible with their honor sometimes, I think. It's like that's a whole separate episode conversation. Yeah, she's still under oath. Yeah. Right, so now he's making it all about Pike and not about her. And we are now 46 minutes in for those following along. Just make sure that you're tracking with me here. We're getting close to the end here. So yeah, Pike's known for months, and he didn't do anything. He didn't turn her in. Everyone's looking bad. Oh no, what's this mean? It's a plot twist. Actually, ultimately, it ends up being a red herring, right? Because it doesn't really. But it makes you go, oh no. You always got to have those shock value moments in the episode. It's like, oh, is it resolved? Oh no, it's not resolved. And then there's a little bit more. Oh no, it's not resolved again. Oh, we're having a little bit more. Cutscene back. Oh, not even a cutscene. We're just back to the trial. Is this the closing arguments here? Yeah. So Admiral Jag is like, no, the only thing that matters is this. And this is where Nira can. Nira, who has listened to Una's testimony and either planned it all along and knew roughly what Una was going to say, or is just that brilliant of a legal mind, which she certainly clearly is. Took all of Una's testimony and wove that right into the point that she was going to make about the statute that she's going to call out here. And I think it's just a great little piece of magic to say, okay, Starfleet, you say your rules matter, but when you've got two opposing rules, which one matters more? You got to pick, right? Like either all the rules matter equally, or you have to use your circumstances to kind of say, well, this one takes a little bit more of a precedence, and maybe the rules are flexible when they need to be. April's already proven, because he was on the stand, even though his testimony was stricken, April has shown repeatedly that a Starfleet officer can be flexible with the interpretation of the rules depending on the circumstances, right? And that's exactly what Una did. And what Nira is arguing is that maybe, hey Starfleet, look in the mirror. Maybe your laws aren't as ironclad as they need to be. Like Pike's dramatic standing up out of the chair. The reaction shots. This is so ridiculous. I mean, it's great. It's a great piece of television theatrics, but it's a little ridiculous to some. I mean, what do I know, right? But just like, oh, dramatic moment. Everybody looks at Pike. Dramatic moment. Everybody looks at Pike. Everybody. So she's making her point. Yeah, she's making a beautiful, eloquent. Boy, this actress is so great. And the writing, just superb. So well done. Get the reaction shots from everybody. So again, this is a case where, if you're playing this around the table, most of your player characters are just sitting and staring at the game master talking at this point. Because, right, if Nira is a game master NPC, the game master is doing all the talking. And this is a case where I would want the defense probably to be another player character, so that this is a player doing all this great role playing here from Nira. Or have Nira come in as a guest spot, as a guest player coming in to play the game for a session or something, or a couple sessions, whatever this takes to play through. Because Una is exonerated in this episode, but really the star of the show is Nira, right? And her ability to defend, not only defend Una, but to put the Illyrians back on the map in terms of giving them justice. And so as a game master, I would hate to take all this fire for myself, right? Because who wants to listen to the game master talk for hours in a game session? Not me as a game master. I want my players to shine. I don't want to shine. I am there to facilitate their being awesome. And so if I were to do this particular episode or something like this episode for my players, I would want the prosecution and the defense to be player characters, and do it more like Measure of a Man, where you've got a player character forced to be the prosecution and another player character forced to be the defense, and have them play off of each other, and have the other player characters contributing meaningfully somehow to either or both sides, where one group is puzzling out the prosecution and one side's puzzling out the defense, and finding all the plot lines that fit. I think there was a couple other Next Gen episodes. I think of the one where Riker is put on trial for supposedly killing a guy, Apgar, and Data and Geordi do some research and oh no, he didn't do it. It was just an accident. But all that business. So give the other player characters things to do to support the trial, as opposed to just having a game master NPC just talk and come out the hero. Not to say that this isn't this is a great episode, obviously, right? But this is the difference between television and role-playing games. But again, so in this case, then, if you've got, let's assume Una's still the player character running the extended task, this eloquent defense from Nira would be a very significant, scene trait, or an assist, or Nira rolling a bunch of successes to add to the progress track, and blows it away, right? Presumably, just knocks it out of the park. And gets the W for the home team. Yeah, I love and so now we're in the Jag is reaching their verdict. We're what 52 minutes into it here, and I just love yeah, this is a nuanced conversation. We didn't do anything wrong, but maybe in this case we can course correct a little bit here. Of course, Starfleet's got to save face and look good. maybe that's me being a little cynical, but yeah, they're like, yeah, we. How do you say we made a mistake without saying we made a mistake, right? Um, and we'll get there at some point, but for now, we're gonna find Una not guilty on all charges, so you're free and clear. So it's kind of I mean, it's not even sorry, not sorry. It's more like we're kind of admitting we did wrong, but we're not really going to come right out and say Starfleet goofed on this one. So success, hooray! So that's the that's the big conclusion of the progress track. If we're doing this as an extended task, um, Una is found not guilty. She comes back to the ship. There's some great little role play bits here where her and the other player characters are are in the transporter room. She says goodbye to Nira, and then she's like, "Hey, friends, get back to work. I'm the tough no nonsense XO. So get back to work, y'all." And then laugh track, fade to credits. But we're not quite done yet, so I'll let it play through to the end here, and then we'll wrap it up. So 5:53, 54 minutes in, Nira and Una having their little conversation. Things are still going to be tough for Illyrians, but maybe this is a start. I would love to see them. I talked about it a little bit with Crusher Convo on the podcast. That it'd be really great to see this character come back again. Unfortunately, with 16 episodes left of Strange New Worlds, there probably won't be time to shoehorn it in. Others maybe like a throwaway line or something that Nira is doing great work for Illyrians. But if Strange New Worlds had 26 episode seasons like Next Gen, DS9, and Voyager did, maybe they could fit in a, not to say filler, but they could fit it in a bottle show, maybe with Nira coming back to touch base with Una on all the other Illyrian cases that have been sidelined, but now can come back into the light. Yeah, so off Nira goes, and thank you, key supporting character or key NPC. Welcome back, La'an. Yep, just a nice little character moment there. Hey, if you all are here saying hi to me, who's flying the ship? It's like, oh, Ortega's, oh yeah, ship flies itself. Get back to work. And then a nice little character moment here between Pike and Una. This is the two players, playing off each other. Clearly they have some history. Right? I mean, not, romantic history, but they have character history together over many seasons, many episodes. And gives her a hug and then a kind of attaboy on the shoulder there. And then back to work. Back to it. And then Una gets her stare off into the middle distance. And then we roll the credits. All right, so that is Ad Astra per Aspera in a role-playing context. And I did a crappy job of adding more notes here, but honestly, I think you get the gist, hopefully. If you disagree with anything that I said about the mechanics or whatnot, hey, drop a comment below. Tell me how you might have handled it and how you might do things differently. Have you run JAG type of scenarios in your campaigns? Have you had player characters going back and forth with each other? Have you been spending a lot of time talking to your player characters as a game master NPC, talking through this kind of an episode? Any other thoughts, any other comments? By all means, drop them in there. Otherwise, thanks so much for spending your time with me. Hope this was interesting. If there are other episodes that you would like to see me play through and talk about RPG-wise, drop your favorites down below. Actually, don't drop your favorites because everyone's got a million favorite Star Trek episodes. If there's a particular Star Trek episode that you would like to see handled in this way, by all means, drop it down. I'm happy to take suggestions. This is like an hour and a half of my time. This is nothing. I had a lot of fun doing this. Hope you had fun listening. Thanks for your time, as always, and live long and prosper, and I will talk to you all next time.